Hello, DBaca Maker here with the next project. This is the more urgent project as opposed to the forge build, which is ongoing, but this has to take precedence right now. And what I'm doing is building a hound puppet in the Bunraku fashion for an upcoming production of Baskerville by Ken Ludwig. I can't speak right now. The idea is that this puppet is controlled both by wires on the inside to control the head and rods that control the feet. It's very much the inspiration for a Muppet. It's like a marionette, in fact, because there are no hands really inside moving anything. It is a marionette, but it's a Japanese style. And to get to this point, I had to do a lot of design work off of the illustrations of a skeleton of a wolf. But it's working out just fine. The head is yet to be designed and attached, but it's all going to work out pretty well, and the play opens up pretty quickly. I have to get this done by the end of the month, so I'm working on it really hard right now to get through it. But this video is about how I got this far in the puppet, and I hope you enjoy. So I used a drawing of a wolf skeleton to get the joints and the lengths of the legs, and transferred it over to SketchUp to give me some scaled and measured drawings that I would work from. From there, I took those drawings and physically drew them out onto the board rather than trying to print fully lofted images. This is combining the femur and the musculature because this is a puppet, not an animatronic. French curves are your friend when you are drawing out these parts. But once you get the basics down, you still have to shape the piece to what your eye says looks right. This is the hind thigh. There were two of those put together, and I cut them both out at the same time with the jigsaw. I also cut out all the rest of the pieces according to the drawings. And now it begins the part of stacking them together, putting in 1/4-inch holes so that I can put in 1/4-inch bolts to snug them up, but still give them a freedom of movement. If, however, at any time during the rehearsals we discover that there's too much movement, I can just as easily use a screw to set those joints in place so that they don't move. And that'll make it easier for the puppeteers. Bit by bit, I got the hind legs put together. And then I went on to the front legs. The scapula you see there on the left, slightly smaller than the thigh on the rear leg. And there are two carpal joints that are going to spread out to 3 toes because the front feet have to look more impressive than the hind feet. And here they are put together so far. That little extra barb you see there is actually the toe of the wolf. It's like the thumb, but it sticks out behind. And now I'm moving on to the spine. In this case, I deviated from my drawings because I wanted to create a larger space for the scapulae to go through, and also give me attachment points for elastic bands. And since the plywood was thicker than what I was using for the rest of the puppet, I had to route out some half-lap joints. And though this is screwed together in this position, it's not going to be all that flexible for this show, but in future shows, I might want to have a more flexible back. And so I'm planning for the future as well as assembling for the present. And now I'm getting ready to attach the scapulae. Now these have to be separated out from the body by quite a bit. And so I got some 3/4 inch dowels, drilled out that centerpiece of the spine where the scapulae will fit so that it could rotate. But I also want freedom of movement in all 3 axes. So rather than screwing things together, I just used pegs. Here I'm setting up the peg to put through the spine. And then there are holes on the outer edges which would be for the inside of the scapulae. And then after that, holes for the outside of the scapula. Most of the plywood here was made with 3/8 inch plywood. So here I'm setting the pins for one of the scapulae. This particular section wasn't that hard, but it looked harder on the video than it actually was. Plus I was making it a little bit difficult for myself by trying to freehand it there. But eventually all the pieces did fit together. If in the future I need to ever replace anything on here, I don't have to unscrew or do any unusual mechanical stuff. I just have to take things apart, pop some pins, and get them out. And now I'm making blanks for the toes. They are not going to stay this oval shape, but for now, this works. I'm going to be flattening them out on the bottom as I see how the foot rests as the actors, or actually the puppeteers, there are going to be 2 of them, move the piece. Then, so they're screwed together at the back at the joint, but they are doweled together at the toes because I don't want them to be all that flexible, and I wasn't going to go spend a whole lot of more money on all thread. Here I'm doing the hind legs exactly the same way that I did the front, except there are only 2 feet per, 2 toes really, per foot on the hind legs. And here you see the piece together. The pegs are holding it all in place, front and back. The hind legs are narrower than the front legs. It gives the dog a bit more of an imposing figure, but it also allows the legs to move more freely. They hold up very well, and I posted this picture to my Instagram. Now it comes time to make the neck. Before, the neck had been one solid piece. Again, planning for the future, I decided that I wanted to have a flexible neck. So I'm making this sort of chain link neck. And I can tighten those together as I have need. I can even screw them together so they don't move. But I did not put any washers between the pieces. I should point this out. On the joints, there are washers between the various pieces to act as bearings. Here, not so much. I really don't want this neck to move because of the mechanics going down the neck, but I might want to reshape the neck. Or at some point in the future, add mechanics to make the neck movable. It all depends upon what's coming up. Here you see me using a cheap plain blade from Harbor Freight as a backstop while I screw down these nylon lock nuts to hold the neck in place. The whole thing was put together with nylon lock nuts. And then to attach the neck to the body, I had to cut off 2 laps either side of this piece of plywood so that it would fit the gap in the neck. Then I screwed it together, making sure that the angle was right, so that at no point was there, a lot of rubbing between the spine and the neck. I've stiffened up the joints a little bit so they aren't so floppy, and I think it's going to be pretty good. Now, in order to attach the head, I have to create sort of a swivel joint. The head itself is going to swivel up and down, let's say on the y-axis, but I also want it to be able to rotate on the z-axis, and if necessary, go side to side on the x-axis. And so I'm creating a joint that I can modify to be a universal joint. I just cut off a notch that's going to fit into the space at the other end of the neck, drilled a hole, and screwed it in. Now you see I have options for whatever I want to do as a swivel for the head. This is the body so far. It of course is going to be padded, mechanics added, and a head attached, and that's going to be coming up in the next video. Now if you enjoyed this video, by all means like, comment, share it, click subscribe to see future videos, and enjoy these other videos as well. And as always, thank you for watching.